So I thought I would update you all on my latest draft, and this one has a 95% AI rating, and I'm going to take you through it in this video. Starting off then, we'll talk about goalkeeper and defenders, and one, I think, position that's pretty much locked in my team. Exact player though, little bit unsure of, is a premium defender. Now I have noticed that Robertson is off this list. I would definitely include Robertson in this list for premium defenders. I think are pickable in FPL, right? Trent, Gabriel, Saliba, Guardiola, VVD and Trippier, Virgil van Dijk that is, and Trippier are the ones I've got here. And it's just a case of picking who I think is the best out of this lot. Now, I'm stuck between three basically at the moment. So maybe four actually. So I'm not saying I'm completely locked in yet on this player, but I think I'll definitely have a premium defender of some description. Just exactly who, I'm still kind of trying to nail it down. I've got Guardiola at the moment. I think based on the stats, his potential attacking returns this season, the fact that he was pretty much nailed on to play at left back for Man City and also basically playing as a left winger, I really like him as an asset in this game. And Man City, yes, they kept less clean sheets, as you can see there, than Arsenal did, while Guardiola also played less games. Expected goals conceded stats were not all that different between Man City and Arsenal. And I think it's only a matter of time. And we kind of saw that towards the back end of last season when Pep really nailed on a consistent back four, which I think he should do from the start of this season. Man City really started to keep clean sheets. And I also think Man City have a better set of opening fixtures than Arsenal do. So I think I prefer Guardiola to the Arsenal defenders. And then it's a battle basically between Guardiola, Trent and maybe Robertson as well, or Virgil van Dijk. I think the 1 million saving between Guardiola and Trent really allows me to improve my team. Yes, I'll admit Trent is probably the best defender in the game, but he's also the most expensive. And I think one of the important things to consider in FPL is value. Now, I don't really think I'm ever going to captain a defender. So at the moment, I've gone for Guardiola based on that. He's $1 million cheaper than Trent. I think Man City keep more clean sheets than Liverpool do. Trent probably gets more attacking returns than Guardiola does across the season, but I don't think Guardiola will be too far off. And having seen Guardiola in pre-season, he's been playing really well and looking just the same as he was at the back end of last season. So my hopes are high for him. He's in my team at the moment. First of all, thank you to Drafthound for this. I used them previously for my stats in videos last season, and I'll be doing that again this year. There's a link to sign up for Drafthound in the description. So I'm not going to go through all this because it's a lot of numbers here. But what I've done is I've showed the clean sheet odds for the first 5 game weeks for all of the teams in the Premier League. So this, well, it certainly helped me decide who to pick in defence. And I think actually it's kind of convinced me that particularly with game weeks 2, 3 and 4 in mind, Guardiola is one of the best defenders because Man City's clean sheet odds are really, really good. 65% they are to keep a clean sheet against Ipswich, 53 against West Ham, 48 against Brentford, then obviously Chelsea and Arsenal either side of that. Liverpool are pretty decent. They got a decent set of opening fixtures as well. I mean, those are the highlight teams, but you can look for yourself basically. You know, if there are players on this list or teams on this list that you like the clean sheet odds for, potentially consider picking their defenders. So I've picked this so far then. Nottingham Forest keeper Miguel. I believe, I know I had Sells previously. He has been signed because Nottingham Forest believe they conceded too many goals from set pieces last season, right? We know Sells got signed in January, but I'm pretty sure they've already decided that they don't want him because they've signed this new keeper Miguel, who's 6'8" and should be able to deal with set pieces a little bit more easily. I've gone for Mykolenko and Livramento at the moment as my 2 starting 4.5 million defenders. I really do think the 4.5 million defender price point at the moment is really good. And there are plenty of good options here. Mykolenko, I think, is one of my picks. Everton kept 13 clean sheets in total last season. I think Mykolenko played 29 of the 38 games and kept 9 clean sheets, which I think is a decent total. And when you compare him to some of the other Everton defenders, Branthwaite, who's gone up to 5 million, Tarkowski, I just think he offers a bit more attacking threat. So for that reason, I think he plays the same number of games, offers more attacking threat. So I think it makes sense to go for him. Livramento, now I'm conscious it's a risk, right? Don't exactly know how Newcastle are going to line up defensively, but they do have a gaping hole in that right back position. And it looks like Kieran Trippier is off to Saudi. So I think Livramento could well become the first choice Newcastle right back. And if he is at 4.5 million, we know how good he is from an attacking perspective. He's pretty decent, right? Newcastle have got Southampton at home first up and some decent opening fixtures. I really like him as an option. Already spoke about Guardiola. You know, the clean sheet odds and fixtures for Man City at the start of the season look good. He's certainly been adopting that attacking sort of left wing, left back role that he played for Man City last season in pre-season. So all the signs are good for him to have a good season from not only an attacking perspective, but also keeping some clean sheets as well. So yeah, that's my starting back four. I've had Eze in pretty much every one of the drafts that I've made. I just think 7 million is incredible value for him. Crystal Palace are much improved under their new manager Glasner. I'm not necessarily thinking they'll challenge for Europe without Elise, but they'll definitely be in and around sort of the top end of the mid-table. And I think they can upset some of the big teams. But Eze, he's going to be that talismanic figure for Crystal Palace. I've said it in pretty much every video I've made about my team, but he's going to play every game that he's fit for. Admittedly, he did have a couple of hamstring issues last season. And traditionally, you find once a player injures their hamstring once, it could be something that reoccurs. So I would bear that in mind when picking Eze. He does come, I guess, with a little bit of injury risk now. He's done his hamstring previously. But I still think 7 million. Crystal Palace talisman should be on the pitch for 90 minutes most games. We'll take their free kicks. We'll take their penalties. Put up really good numbers last year, as you can see there. I think he's going to be a really good option. So I have to pick Eze. He's been in every team I've made so far. Now, Anthony Gordon hasn't quite been in every team I've made so far, but I do think he's a really good option nonetheless. 34 starts last season. I think you can pretty much guarantee that he's absolutely nailed on to start for Newcastle under Eddie Howe. 11 goals, 16 assists, 27 attacking returns from 34 starts. There is a bit of overperformance there in terms of expected assists and total assists, which, you know, suggests that you might not be able to replicate that level of returns this season. But one thing I would say about Anthony Gordon is that he seems to be improving season on season and getting better and better. So might not quite be able to replicate 16 assists, but I do expect him to improve and still get a decent number. I would be surprised if he got less than, say, 20 attacking returns across the season. And for 7.5 million, I don't really think you can ask for much more. All right, so here is my complete midfield then. I've gone for Nkunku and Salah alongside Gordon and Eze. I think Salah, one of the best players in FPL history, right? If not the best. He's the best captain in my mind for game week 1. He just has to be in my team. Then I've got 6.5 million left for a midfielder. I've gone for Nkunku at the moment, but I've done a little comparison of all of the 6.5 million mids I would suggest are pickable. There are a couple of other options I would suggest I could be going for. Given Nkunku's strong pre-season, Enzo, the new Chelsea manager, really sort of singing his praises, I think he's going to be good to start the season for Chelsea, and I really like him as an option. But other notable players I think you could go for, Leon Bailey of Villa, definitely. 0.58 expected returns per 90. Second best on this list, only to Nkunku, but he obviously played, well, 10 times the game, so I guess that's more of a bigger sample size to look at it from. I'd also, he's not quite there in terms of stats, but just given Nottingham Forest's opening fixtures, Bournemouth, Southampton, Wolves, I really like Gibbs White as well. He should be the penalty taker for Nottingham Forest. He'll play every game, be on the pitch for 90 minutes every time out. Put up some decent numbers last season. It's definitely sort of midway average on this list. But those opening fixtures are by far and away the best in the league, particularly those first three. So I'd say Gibbs White, Bailey and Nkunku would be my 3 picks at the price point. But right now, I've gone for Nkunku. If you've watched any of my videos before, you're probably sick of me talking about wanting Haaland in my team. I think he's worth having. I know at 15 million he's the most expensive asset in FPL history, but he just puts consistently in 30 goals kind of a season, right? If he stays fit for most games this season, I believe he's easily going to score 30 goals, right? Yes, he's got potential injuries that he's picked up during pre-season. You know, we'll see if he starts the Community Shield or gets minutes in the Community Shield. I'd suggest if he gets minutes in the Community Shield, he'll start the first game of the Premier League season. Chelsea away first up is not the best fixture. Like I said, I actually think Salah for game week 1 is the best captain. But then we look at game weeks 2 and 3, Ipswich at home and West Ham away. I think he's the best captain for those 2 fixtures. And for that reason, I want the best captain every week. And I'm going to pick Erling Haaland. There's space for one more premium forward with the way my team's structured in the budget I have. Between Watkins and Isak, I would say, and I've compared these two enough, I think. Watkins, obviously a really good option. But comparatively, per game, Isak was better last season. And opening fixtures-wise, I say they're better for Isak as well. And he's on penalties, which you cannot guarantee Watkins is going to be. Even with Douglas Luiz leaving the Aston Villa setup, I think it could well be John McGinn, to be honest. So all those things considered, I think Haaland and Isak are going to be in my team. And then forwards-wise, other forward, I like Chris Wood. I mentioned him in my players to avoid video, but I did so with a bit of a pinch of salt. Now, I think he's a really good option, but not for the long term. I think Forest have probably the best opening 3 fixtures of any team in the league. He put up 14 goals last season from 20 starts. He had a really good goals to game ratio. Numbers right up there with some of the best strikers in the league. I'm conscious though, he has a Awoniyi as competition, who is also a very, very good striker. And as soon as Wood's form drops off, I think Awoniyi will start seeing them sharing minutes and Awoniyi getting in the team. But I do think, given the form that he was in last season, Chris Wood starts the first 2, maybe 3 games. And for me, that's all I want him for, really. 2 or 3 weeks into the season, well, 3 or 4 weeks into the season, sorry, I'd be happy to probably transfer him out for another player. But I'd be hard-pressed not to pick him for the start of the season that he has. And the numbers that he put up last season are really good. So great fixtures, good numbers, good price. He makes my team. Just looking at my bench then, I really like Morgan Rogers. Looks like he should be starting for Aston Villa now with DRB leaving. He's been in great form this pre-season, getting a lot of praise, and also in decent form at the back end of last season as well. Another player, he's a 5 million midfielder, another 5 million midfielder I potentially like the look of, although not necessarily guaranteed to start. I guess we'll see how they line up in the Community Shield. But Man United's Amad Diallo could be playing on the right wing for them from the start of the season. They got Fulham at home first up. At 5 million, Amad Diallo could be good value. So I'd say I like sort of picking a 5 million midfielder to go on my bench. Yeah, it could be Diallo, could be Rogers. Konsa is my choice of backup 4.5 million defender. I really like Aston Villa. They're obviously a Champions League team this season, pretty good defensively. There are so many 4.5 million defenders. I'd suggest Anderson of Crystal Palace, maybe Martinez of Man United as well could be options. I think I just prefer Konsa. But, you know, if you have a different preference, I ultimately don't think there's going to be a whole lot between the best sort of 4.5 million defenders. And then Barco, he's my pick of the 4 millions. I think for me, it makes sense to have a couple, you know, one 4.5 million defender and one 4 million defender on my bench. So that's my team. Other player to mention is Bentley. There are no starting 4 million goalkeepers in the game at the moment. So ultimately, it doesn't really matter who you pick. I've seen some people go for a Flecken and then Boldmarson, I believe his name is, the backup Brentford goalkeeper as a double up. That kind of makes sense because it means no matter how your team lines up, you always get the starting Brentford keeper. But for me, I think just prefer Nottingham Forest opening fixtures and their chances of keeping clean sheets. So I've gone for Miguel and I just picked Bentley as my starting 4 million goalkeeper. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter who you go for. Finally then, we plug this team into the Fantasy Football Hub AI tool and it gets a 95% team rating, 92% rating for Game Week 1 and 64.6, basically 65 expected points. You can see there how the players line up for the week. It's actually suggesting that I should start Barco. Now, I personally believe at Goodison Park opening the season that Mykolenko is going to be better. But I guess it looks like Fantasy Football Hub have a little bit of doubt around Mykolenko starting. I believe he will. Maybe the tool will catch up with my beliefs soon. But yeah, that's how they're saying I should line up my team. It gets a 95% AI rating, which I think is pretty good. If you want to do this with your own team, I've got a link in the description to Fantasy Football Hub. I get you 50% off if you want to sign up using my link. I said it's in the description if you fancy having a go for yourself. All right, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed me taking you through my draft. You know, hopefully maybe it inspires some picks for yourself. Let me know in the comments what you think of it. You know, I always say in most of my videos, I'm always open to people having different opinions as long as you're nice about it. FPL, at the end of the day, if we all had the same opinions, our teams would all be the same and it'd be really boring. So we can't be having that. So I'm happy to hear different opinions in the comments. Just be nice about it. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like rating. You can subscribe to the Goal and Goal channel, which should be just there on your screen if you want to see more content from me. All right, thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you in my next video.